Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. With a quick update for you on the Bitcoin situation. In a few minutes, I want to come back and revisit this chart that I talked about some weeks ago. So we'll come back to this chart in a few minutes. Before we do that, though, what I want to do is actually go on the chart on a higher time frame chart of Bitcoin. I mean, as you can see, it's a daily chart, and you can see a very tight sideways range-bound consolidation here on Bitcoin. Doesn't look very nice, does it? When you look at the chart of Bitcoin, it's just been absolutely frustrating. Nothing but just grinding sideways. You know, lots of chop, lots of sideways action here in Bitcoin. Let's go on a higher time frame, the weekly chart. It's always a good idea to have a look at the higher time frame, as I'm sure you probably know, because it actually smooths out a lot of the noise that you see on the chart. So this is the weekly chart, for example. Let me also show you, this is the 2-day chart, the 3-day chart, and the weekly chart. I do like to take a look at the mid-range sort of time frames, like 2-day, 3-day. But anyway, here we have the weekly chart. Now, I did make a video some months back, I think it was, or was it about a few weeks back, I think it was, when I mentioned that the 21 weekly moving average on Bitcoin is going to be absolutely crucial and important. That's the 21 weekly you see on the chart. That's the blue line you see on my chart. The reason is usually when price goes above the 21 weekly and stays above it, and as long as price does not drop below it, there's a very high probability this could be the start of a brand new uptrend. Now, if you look, for example, at previous attempts to get above the 21 weekly, you'll see the last two attempts failed. For example, this was back at the start of this year. The start of 2020, we had a nice move above the 21, and then of course it failed, as you can see here, boom, we dropped, and then bam, crashed all the way to the 200 weekly, and then it bounced off. As you can see here, here's another example for you. This is back in last year, as a matter of fact. October last year, you may remember, price was below the 21, then tried to get above it here, as you can see, and then it failed. Once again, it failed here, and then it dropped. Boom. So that was another failure. Now, you'll see last year in 2019, there was an attempt that succeeded, but of course that also eventually failed too. So here's an example for you of when Bitcoin succeeded in getting something going to the upside. There it is. Gets above the 21 and then started a nice major rally to the upside. But of course, eventually that failed and dropped below the 21, showing to us, nope, that was not a brand new uptrend. And take a look at the 2018 chart. Look at this. Again, several attempts Bitcoin made to get above 21 here. Failed, you can see here. Gets above 21, false breakout, failed, and then eventually dropped down. Here again, another failed attempt. Here, and then dropped below 21, and another attempt in 2018. Gets above the 21, and then it drops back down again. So you'll notice several attempts in 2018 failed. And these showed, and here's the thing, the way I use this is as soon as price closes below the 21, like you see here, so you see it here, here, this is the bar that closed below the 21. This shows a very high probability, you know what, this is not the start of a brand new uptrend. So usually when you see the price going back below the 21 weekly average, it's a very high probability it's a false breakout. And that means risk increases to the downside, essentially is what it means. But look, for example, in 2017. In 2017, you see a very nice, in fact, let me put this on a logarithmic chart. So here's a logarithmic chart of Bitcoin in 2017, and you'll see what I mean. Just take a look at this beautiful uptrend in 2017. Notice how many times the price of Bitcoin bounced off the 21 weekly. In fact, every single one of these pullbacks managed to result in a bounce. So you see over here, pullback, bounce, pullback, bounce, pullback, bounce. And there you go again, pullback, bounce, until eventually we saw failure, and that, by the way, was back in the start of 2018, which resulted in a major crash. So you can see, for example, why the weekly 21 still remains a very important level on the charts. All right, guys? So that's why I'm still saying at the moment, guys, at the moment, the way I'm seeing the chart of Bitcoin, look, we're above the 21. That's good news so far. So it's always good to actually, step aside and just observe the chart of Bitcoin on a higher time frame chart, like the weekly chart, and just say to yourself, look, I know there's been a lot of noise and randomness and a lot of choppy sideways action on the lower time frame, the daily chart, but look at the weekly chart. The good news is that so far, we're still holding above the weekly 21, above that blue line. So what does this mean? It means that as long as Bitcoin remains above the blue line, above the weekly 21, which is about 8,700 so far, it's about 8,700 on Bitcoin right now. As long as we remain above that, I still maintain a bullish perspective. All right, guys? Now, if Bitcoin were to drop below the 21 average, so in other words, if Bitcoin suddenly did this, if it dropped below the 21, this blue line, which by the way, that means it would have to also take out this support as well. All right, if it did that, I'm not saying it's going to do that, but if it did that, then I would have to change my mind and become more bearish on Bitcoin. But for the moment, guys, I remain bullish on Bitcoin as long as we remain above this key level on the charts. All right, guys, I'm hoping this is very clear. That's the way I'm seeing things. And also, let me show you this. I showed this to our members in our members video about a few weeks back. And I said, look, the wave count on Bitcoin still remains as a potential wave 4 correction, as a wave 4 corrective pattern. By the way, this is our own LT Elliott waves indicator, which plots for us automatically on the charts the potential and probable wave counts. So as you can see here, my position has not changed, in fact, since the last few weeks when I published my video on the crocodile pattern. So I explained before that wave 4 corrections can often become very dangerous because people don't understand. A lot of folks don't understand that wave 4 corrections can be very messy, very unpredictable. But I still maintain that we're still in a wave 4 corrective pattern and finally we break out of this pattern. And we'll see what happens. So that's my view so far on the wave counts on Bitcoin. And by the way, that means this. If you just take a look at this chart, this is an example for you of the kind of pattern I think we're in right now in Bitcoin, a complex corrective pattern on Bitcoin. And it's something you have to appreciate, that wave 4 corrections are complex sometimes. They're not always simple. They're not always a very simple ABC. Sometimes they look like this, and sometimes they may look like this. Bottom line is they're very messy and often very unpredictable in their movements. I think this is actually very similar to the chart picture we're seeing right now on Bitcoin, as you can see there. Bottom line for me is this. By the way, something you need to appreciate as well, that the whole purpose of wave 4 is to separate you from all the money you made in wave 3. Because here's the thing, guys. Often amateur traders or beginner new traders and chartists don't appreciate the difference between a wave 3 and a wave 4 because they're not familiar with Elliott wave theory. You see, guys, in a wave 3, you have a trending market. Okay, a nice trending environment. And what does it mean, a trending market? It means the price moves deliberately in a given direction, in the upward direction. That is what we had in Bitcoin recently. If you just take a look at the chart of Bitcoin in the daily time frame chart, take a look, and you'll see you had a very nice trending market pretty much since we bottomed there back in March, and this is a very nice trending market environment. And then what happens? You hit a brick wall. You hit essentially the wave 4, the dreaded wave 4 complex correction. The wave 4 often is a bit like a casino. You know how you go into a casino and the casino owners, they want you to stay there and keep playing. Why? Because they know the law of averages says that as the longer you stay in the casino, the longer you keep playing in there, the more likely it is that you will lose your money. All right, guys? So remember, the wave 3 is a trending market. So you have a market that is trending up, okay, making nice higher highs, higher lows, as you can see here. But often people don't understand that once the wave 3 completes, then what you have is a very messy wave 4 correction. This is where the house, the casino, takes back some of the money that essentially people have made in wave 3. So the whole purpose of wave 4 is really just to separate you from all the money you made during the trending nice environment of wave 3. All right, guys. So how do you recognize that you're probably in a wave 4 and not in a wave 3? I mentioned this, you may remember, in a previous video. What I like to do is go on a slightly higher time frame chart. This is a 2-day chart of Bitcoin, for example. And I use an ADX, an average directional index on my chart. Take a look at this. And I mentioned this to you in my previous video, but it's worth just taking a look at this. Notice this range-bound market environment. You see this? Choppy, sideways, range-bound market environment. And look underneath. Look at the ADX. The average directional index, it's a 14 setting, has fallen below 20. So when the ADX, when the average directional index falls below 20, like it did here, actually it's gone below 20 since mid-May. Since the middle of May, it's been below 20. And look, it hasn't recovered. It's still below 20. That shows to us a non-trending environment. Non-trending, choppy, sideways market environment. Lots of this. Lots of up and down, you know, lots of this choppy sideways market action that you're seeing here. All right, guys? What we hate, essentially. So that's what we have at the moment so far. So look, if you're looking, for example, to have a better trending environment, if you're looking for a much easier trending environment, then you probably know that it's better to wait for this ADX to get above 20. So the bottom line is, once this ADX gets above the 20 region here and gets above this level, then you know what? Then you're probably dealing with a much better trending market environment. So for example, let's just zoom back a little bit. Take a look at what happened in 2019. You see this over here? Back in 2019, look at the ADX. It went below the 20 region here back in March, but then eventually went back above it here. As you can see, in mid-March, I think it was April of 2019, went above the 20 level, and then you had a nice trending market environment. Okay, you see that? All right, guys, so that's what I got on the chart of Bitcoin. Before I finish the video, I just want to say something very quickly and quite important. You may remember some time ago I traveled to Iran or Persia, and when I was there, I traveled a fantastic place. You may actually be aware of this place called Persepolis in Shiraz in Iran. It's a very important and historic place. It's the place where Cyrus the Great, Darius, Xerxes, all the great Persian emperors, and even Alexander the Great, they all used to be in this place called Persepolis in Persia. So this place I traveled to some time ago was the seat of the Persian Empire. So I made a video about my trip there, and I explained the 3 shocking facts you probably don't know about Iran. Guys, I would really appreciate it if you go and check out this video and let me know what you think. And let me know if you liked it. Let me know if you learned something from it. I published this video for you on Sara's channel. If you haven't seen Sara's video, they're fantastic. They're funny, they're entertaining, they're informational. So I published this on youtube.com/Hello Iran TV. Please do go ahead and check it out because you'd be also helping Sara's channel as well. And just let me know what you think about the video. What I'll do, guys, I'll put the link to this video in the description and also put the link for you at the end of the video so you can just click on it. And also, please, guys, I would appreciate it. Subscribe to Sara's channel as well. It would help her a lot if you could support her channel just by subscribing to it and also by watching some of her videos as well. So guys, really appreciate it. Thanks very much indeed, and bye for now.